Hello, and welcome to Hey, Mr. LifeCore. I am your host, Jason Paul. As always, thank you for, of course, tuning in and joining us. Today's episode or segment comes to you pre-recorded. Unfortunately, I have a conflict in my schedule today, so I'm not able to be live at 5 o'clock. But obviously, I wanted to make sure we got this segment out to you as we continue to discuss, of course, the future of healthcare. Let's take a little bit of a time travel here and go back in time as we look at healthcare and how it relates to the evolution of just change, right? Certainly, I think I may have mentioned in the promotion that we'll talk a little bit on the CVS Aetna deal that is now closed in healthcare. But I really want to first discuss a little bit about um, healthcare in itself, right, and understanding it, because so many people are putting, if you will, pressure on things like the CVS Aetna deal or Berkshire Hathaway, Amazon, and Chase Bank getting together to put together some kind of healthcare initiative. And in some ways, I feel like a lot of things are the same old with some change, but yet still goes back to the same old philosophy. And where I want to touch on this is really looking at other industries, right? And saying, what have we learned? And it is Christmas time, right? So let's take a quick trip down memory lane and remember the time when, if you're in your 40s or older, hopefully you remember Christmas catalogs, right? How you would look forward to that Christmas catalog this time of year, and you folded the pages, right? And you picked out toys and you seen what was new and so on and so forth. That sheer joy and excitement. Of course, companies that did that were, Sears, right? Montgomery Ward's, J.C. Penney's. I don't know if that Kmart had a catalog, but certainly Kmart, those brands were all prevalent when we were younger, right? And what's interesting is I look at healthcare and the future of healthcare, I actually look at other industries and say, okay, that have been around for just as long as healthcare has, right? And the evolution of things. And there's lessons to be learned because I think in healthcare, we keep wanting change, but yet we're really doing the same old, right? And we tweak a few things, but it's really not changing the overall outcomes of stuff. And I think where we can start to look at lessons is in the retail world, right? So it's us as the professionals in the community of healthcare, the insurers, as well as the consumers, to really first understand what should healthcare really be, right? What does it really need to be? Because as you remember in my first segment, I talked about the three stages of healthcare, and as I look at it, which is, of course, healthcare and in our self-care of how we take care of ourselves on a daily basis, right? And then we have disease management, in which obviously we have either incurred an injury or an illness. We obviously try to remove that injury or illness and return back to health. And of course, in the event that that injury or illness is significant enough, we've got insurance to help pay for those things, right? Um, but we really have to understand what is it that we want healthcare to be, or in order for us to really build a better future for healthcare. Thus, we look at it from the reengineering aspect of it. And again, look at the companies like Kmart, Montgomery Ward's, Sears, J.C. Penney's, all those organizations, right, from the retail standpoint. And obviously, how many of them have been around many, many years and they're no longer? Why is that, right? You've got now Amazon's and obviously the Walmart that has been growing and so on and so forth. But then you also look at the car industry, right? And this is where I find very interesting is you look at, for example, a Cadillac brand, right? If you're in your 40s and older, most of us grew up with Cadillac as in that was grandpa's car, right? It really wasn't a younger, affluent, hip, cool vehicle, right? It was grandpa's car. And Cadillac early on, seeing that, wait a minute, the grandfather's sons and grandsons aren't buying this product, right? So why not? Because they assume we usually buy products that our parents buy and so on and so forth. And that wasn't the case. So it became about with Cadillac, really the brand, right? The experience. I mean, think about it now. I mean, how Cadillac is portrayed in the marketplace, right? Still a car, just like it was, but it's not a car now. It's an experience, right? They've totally changed it now. Yes, the old guys still like the cars, but it's the young guys and ladies that are drawn to them, right? Because of it's not just a car; it's an experience, right? And what we have to do with healthcare is we've got to start looking at it from an experience and not from an experience of going, wow, that was a great um, needle stick that I just experienced. No, it has to be an experience about true health care, right? And how is it enhancing our lives on a daily basis? And is it convenient? Is it accessible, right? Is it relatively affordable? Does it make sense? And I think when we look at the CVS and the Aetna type of deals, and they are coming out with some concept stores next year to bring again sort of healthcare into the consumer world, into the retail world, they're still focusing on a lot of the reactive aspect of things. And when I look at healthcare, again, I'm focused on what is the quality of our life, right? What are the things that we can do that can improve our daily living? And as well as that, our healthcare has to expand, right? It's got to be beyond just what I always refer to as the poking and prodding. I actually had a phone call this morning with a gentleman who's in sort of the music business, right? And we're talking about some concepts and ideas regarding music therapies and things of that nature. And understanding that what we've got to look at when we look at healthcare is we can't take still the old and just reposition it, retweak a little bit, and then put it out there, right? We really have to rethink this entirely. So when we at LifeCore are saying we're re-engineering healthcare, we are, which of course has been a journey, we are really looking at this from a whole concept of how do we totally re-engineer and rethink what healthcare means, how we actually look at it, how do we apply it, and where we're applying it, and how does that overall play into our life and as an experience, right? And that's what's important. So as we move forward, I want all of you to just really start questioning, right, and looking at things and looking at your own health care and say, okay, what is it that if you were sitting at the table and you had a scratch pad in front of you, what were the things that you would write down that would be like, this is what I believe healthcare is, right? Is it access to more choice of care like acupuncture, massage therapy? Is it a place in which you can go and you can be introduced to different type of natural proactive modalities, all while also having a place to sort of like a, I'll call it a quasi Starbucks, that's a place to hang out and relax and stuff? Or is it a place in which, again, it's about your mental, physical, financial health of things? What is healthcare to you, right? In your eyes, if you design something, what would that be, right? And what would the system maybe need to do to support it? Is it, hey, I want lower health insurance because if I can pay less for health insurance, then I can take that money and I can spend it on actual health care for me that will allow me to improve the quality of my life and, of course, hopefully add to the quantity of your life as well. So it's very important that we as consumers get involved. We as professionals don't too quickly just think, okay, we're going to do this, right? Because we have to remember at the end of all this, we are all consumers, right? And we also have to look at other industries and look at the past and say, okay, well, what is it that these huge iconic names and brands miss, right? And then these new organizations came in and totally dominated the space. Or what are the brands that were old that reinvented themselves, that truly reinvented themselves, right? And made a huge difference? What can we learn from that? Because that's the only way, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to truly change the future of healthcare, because all we have been doing is really band-aiding a lot of things, right? And it's going to take both from those in the industry and us as society to really start to try to figure out how to get on what I'll call a foundational page, right? To understand what is healthcare, what does it mean, what do we want from that, and then from there we can expand forward. And of course, here at LifeCore, we are, you know, trying to involve as many people as we can. We invite the naturopathic doctors, we invite acupuncture, we invite professionals, MDs, everybody alike to participate in our various different formats that we have available, because it is all of us having discussions. And just like I mentioned earlier, I had a phone call today with this gentleman in the music, and it's probably my third or fourth call with him. And just through the dialogue of the continuous conversation, it keeps evolving into more details and more details and more things that are quite frankly going to improve the consumer experience of whatever it is that we put together from this new healthcare perspective. So it's very important that we understand it, but again, we have to have the definition. So do me a favor, until next week, start thinking about what is healthcare to you, right? What does it mean? Write down some things from your personal perspective of, you know, what would you like to do on a regular basis for your health that you feel would have a tremendous impact on improving your health? Mental, physical, financial, doesn't matter. As well as if you're a professional, add on to that and say, well, if healthcare could do this, this, or this, as a professional, here's how it would help me help others as well, right? So that's going to be my assignment, if you will, to you. And obviously next week we'll be back live. And hopefully we'll get some feedback and comments, and we can touch base on those a little bit, and then we'll have, of course, have another segment moving forward. Today's segment obviously a little more broader, but nonetheless, I really want us to think about, again, if we're going to shape the future, we really need to understand what we want it to look like, learn from the past, because if not, it'll be unfortunately much of the same old, same old. So thank you for listening as always. Of course, until next week, enjoy the days ahead. As I always say, every day, good or bad, has a lesson in it if we're willing to pay attention. So stay well, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.